mastermind, we're going to go a little bit more old school, how we used to do it, of just discussing with people and allowing everybody here to connect with one another and really just unpack what's working, what's not working. Obviously, we're still kind of in the throes of the good old Corona. I feel as if we're coming out of this personally. That's just my own thought. Everybody has their own thoughts on that, of course. But how's everybody adapting? And one thing that I wanted to talk a little bit about is already generated leads. So one topic that I really want to talk about is, what are you guys doing for leads that were generated 6 to 8 months ago? Who has an effective strategy that's been working to initiate these conversations with people who might have been unresponsive throughout the beginning portions of your drip campaigns? Does anybody have a really good follow-up that seems to be working for them?
I do. And I have another good idea. So I'm so excited for this.
Please share with me. Always love to hear.
Okay, so I use Follow Up Boss, and that's my CRM. So I use the BombBomb tool in Follow Up Boss to put my video in and do the video CMA and send it out. I have had the worst open rates like ever, and I just think it's my email and I'm a spammer and blah blah blah. So I started sending it right through BombBomb. So like when I'm done with the video CMA and it says send through BombBomb, I send it through there. I created a template there, and they're like opening like that. I'm so excited.
Your automation emails aren't being opened at the rate that we would expect, but when you're sending them manually through BombBomb, you're seeming to get better opens.
Yeah.
What would be is there a difference in the subject line?
No, I copy right from the Follow Up Boss template and put it in there. So same emojis, same subject, different email. So that might be it. But
the email itself, I mean, regardless of the content of the email, if it's getting opened, that's the same. I mean, it almost doesn't matter what the content is, except for I always look at previous content. So if I send you an email that's no good, my secondary email is likely not to get opened, right? Any subsequent follow-ups is less likely to be open. So if your first email is good, the next one should be good. But if it's coming from the same email address with the same subject line, and it's being opened more consistently.
Right. So StreetText has my staging at AskWendy.com, and then Follow Up Boss has staging at AskWendy.com, but BombBomb has my lvsh.info, which when I put it in that email tracker to see how good it is, that was my worst email because I used to send videos out all the time through it, and apparently I was more spam or something. But anyway, but then I just started doing it because it's just so frustrating to do all that work and have nobody look at your stuff. And yeah, huge. And this is just like in the last week. So if you're having trouble, try that. It'll be a world of difference. And I don't know why or how, but it is.
A nice little test then, we could always try just taking that other email address that seems to be opened at a higher rate, pull it into your Follow-Up Boss or into StreetText and see if the automations get open more, because it could be a product of that email address looks more like what people are looking for. If you allude to the fact that it's staging at people who might not be, at that stage, right? They may not be, they may not be ready. They're not thinking staging. And oftentimes people who sell their home, that's the last thing on their mind. Us as realtors, we discuss staging and preparing that home for sale, but very rarely did I, have clients asking me about staging at that stage of the game. So that could have something to do with it. So.
Okay, yeah, because I thought it was Follow Up Boss, but my agent, Tony and Ashley, they're doing the same thing and they're getting good open rates through Follow Up Boss. So maybe it is that email because they just don't like it. Who knows? All I know is they're getting open now. Yay.
Well, and there's two things to think about, right? Is the that mail hyphen tester that we always talk about, the ability to see how good, and less likely your emails are to hit spam. That's incredibly important. If they're hitting spam, people aren't getting the choice whether or not to open it. But if it's hitting their email inbox, but they're choosing not to open it because it's from staging, I think that could have something to do with it. So for anybody who is struggling getting your emails opened, let's start looking into what your email address is, because that obviously, I think that makes sense. That could have a big impact. Right.
And then as far as the follow-up goes, it's really hard because there's so many coming in to go back and look to see who opened it and see who watched your video and stuff like that. So I created a task in Follow-Up Boss. Once I send it through BombBomb, I just create a note saying sent video CMA through BombBomb, and then I have a reminder to check to see if it was opened and watched the next day. And then if it's not, then I send it through Messenger. So, or try to find them and send them through Messenger. So, and that's helping. So now I have a bunch of tasks every day to look at the ones from yesterday, which is more work, but it's, you know, if you don't do that, then you just think, oh, this isn't working. But if they don't see it, it's not gonna work.
Yeah. Well, that's my other thought is as well is when you're looking at this, everybody's always, you know, stepping on the lead gen gas pedal, which is great. And we're hoping that we get a response within those first 3 weeks, 3 months, right? And a lot of the time I'm finding that most people respond within 3 to 6 months. I would say that that's safe. You're going to get some form of response from them, but there's some that don't, and there's some that weren't ready in that time period. So once again, it's getting to that 8 to 9 month period. And I mean, even our drip campaign drops off at 9 months. Is there anybody who's having good success, Wendy, yourself included, of course, that once you're at that point, you haven't had communication, is there something that you guys are doing manually that does seem to bring people in and something we could consider adding into the automations?
Just HomeBot.
HomeBot.
So we do that in 7 days. So like that's on day 7, which is kind of cool because sometimes they'll be like, yeah, I'm not really ready, da, 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 da. And you have conversations with them and you're like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to set you up on this super cool program called HomeBot, and it's going to keep you updated on the value of your home. So that's going to run forever until they tell you to stop. Yep. And so that'll go way past the 9 months, hopefully.
You know, and that's the idea too with HomeBot. If you are using HomeBot, the beauty of that is obviously you get through 9 months, 12 months, doesn't really matter. They're always being updated with that consistent value report and shown that value. I think that's definitely a good way to get things moving.
So through the HomeBot process, you know, like I said, I briefly looked into that, and I was actually using APC Analytics, but HomeBot, you can actually set up reminders that remind you that when videos are actually opened or to a certain time frame where you can follow up.
Well, HomeBot won't be HomeBot. And somebody else, Wendy, or somebody may be better at answering this since I don't currently or personally use HomeBot myself, but HomeBot's more the valuation mechanism. BombBomb would be the video platform that you're sending the videos from.
I just said, but Wendy, what you were saying, you had a platform, like a system that you're using to send you reminders. I mean,
yeah,
I've just been putting reminders in my calendar.
Right. We have Follow-Up Boss and we have reminders. So as soon as the StreetText lead goes into Follow-Up Boss, I know I have up to 4 days to get that video CMA. Like I try to get it like in the first day or 2, but I have 4 days till the next email from StreetText goes out, you know, the next video saying, hey, did you get my, you know, video CMA, blah, 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 blah. So I know I have that much time. And then, but as soon as it goes in, we set up a task to add to HomeBot in 7 days. And then we set up a task, you know, after the video CMA to make sure someone opened it. So like it is kind of manual doing that. And then what
so you have a clone in the other room, right?
Huh? I do have an assistant. I have 2 now. One's doing the CMAs and one's working the lead system. So, which is very, very helpful. But yeah, so that definitely helps. And then when we get the monthly report from HomeBot, it shows you who opened it. And then if you want to like go in and say, you know, something after you see that they viewed their report, you can send a video, you know, from there. But we don't really have a great system for that yet.
Smart.
Jennifer, you had something you wanted to say.
It's so funny. You know, that drives my husband crazy when we're talking. He's like, I can tell you want to talk. Would you wait till I finish? So it's funny that you picked up on that. Anyway, I just wanted to, Wendy was saying, because what I do is You know, I told you, I start from the back. So like once a week, I'll go from my very oldest lead, and anything that's over about 2 months, basically I send them a live video, and I'm just like, you know, hey, Marcus, you know, 2 months ago, I sent you a valuation for your home. Your values changed. Are you ready? Do you want me to send you another one? Let me know. I'm happy to do it. And most of the time I get a response from that, because if they're ready, then they do want that updated response. And even if it really hasn't changed, it's going to be a little different when I send it. But I show them new comps and all of that. And so that's just kind of what I've been doing besides just the regular follow-up. I just basically that their valuations changed, and I incorporate a video and send it by text or by email.
Now, I know you've talked about it before because people are talking about open rates, and you've talked about the system sending it. And if you don't get that one sent out or open, you send it from your personal email. And if you don't get that one open and received, you send it from BombBomb. Is that correct?
No, I send everything through BombBomb. But what I do is, so if it hasn't been opened in 24 hours, I know that it's been trashed or they're never going to see it again. So what I do is I literally just copy and paste the same email and I resend it. And most of the time, at least 50 or 60%, they'll open it that time. If they don't and it's still unread, then the next day I'll send it again with a new subject, but it's all through BombBomb.
Okay. Well, there you have it. So sending it from BombBomb, you're seeing bigger open rates.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I'm thinking if anybody who uses Dove, that would probably be a similar experience. Sorry, I'm annoyed by myself and the echo, so. Cool, so there's a couple things I can share that I think that we can highlight in the Insider group. And Leon, you've been, yeah, I know you're on the phone right there. I'll highlight the Insider group to kind of show you what I'm sharing here. So let me get into this area. So very cool. I put in the announcement of some cool discussions that have been posted here. One of them I wanted to talk about was I'm very frustrated with all the automatic CMAs out there, including HomeBot. I've tried our PR, Cloud CMA, and one on my website, I use Conversion. They all come up with in too low, and potential sellers are questioning the values. I'm afraid I will lose business if the values coming too low. So now I have to run comps on every single address. Any advice? And I really love the way you answered this, Leon. You said, I have found when they question the value, I respond letting them know that they're right about the value being off, but I wanted them to see what the internet's best guess was about their home. They say, now that I have, and then you say, now that I have your attention, if you would give me any recent updates, upgrades, or remodels, I can give you a real value for your home. Make that negative a positive. Does that make sense there, guys? Because that's the whole point of that internet's best guess. You want it to be way off because you want to create a conversation around that. And I think that's
no one knows their home better than they do. So people are fairly quick at times once they open it to read something, correct you. And, you know, you let them know it's not your fault. I always joke and say, blame the person not there. You go, well, now you know what everybody else is looking at your house, what they're thinking. And what I've been doing also with that is, like I say, sometimes, and this is good when Logan said, go old school. Sometimes you got to back up a little bit. Instead of chasing the new, I say, don't chase the shiniest button out there. When I get stuff like that, I use Lion Desk. And the reason I use Lion Desk, and I've got a follow-up boss sitting there because I was a white local person when it first came out. So the thing that was kind of, I don't want to say frustrating, but the thing to me that's kind of productive, a lot of the systems, the StreetText does this too, but the platform is a little older. When people respond to the text and it shuts off, we're always teaching like, hey, they're going to respond to a text much quicker than an email. So the thought is, okay, if they're only getting snail mails and emails and not open it, I still have to reach out to them. And we can't just rely on the technology part of set it, forget it, automatic email going. What you got to do is get that text out there. And I had said something, and I've been saying this to the group, and I one shot really try this. iPhone lets you turn the subject line on in a text. I'm not sure if Android does because I haven't looked it up, but I have had a better response with that subject line in there because you're paying money to Facebook every month. It's marketing. You're paying them money to use it. So in my subject line, I'm sending out Facebook market evaluation. I guarantee you, when people see Facebook or name brand recognition, they're like, oh, what's this? They're going to open it. And I can track the opens. So even if you do it in BombBomb and want to send out a subject line Facebook market valuation, the minute people see something that is name brand like Facebook and stuff like that, I'm getting a higher rate of clicks. And then what I've been doing is I go into HomeBot behind that, update the evaluation, because I'm not just going to chase every one of them. I was doing like 10 a day. Let's update it and send it out. But then once again, it's an email, so I'm not guaranteed the open. But I find if I was using the text to get it out there, and even sending, you can use BombBomb as a text. So as I send it out there and I'm using that subject to get their eyeballs on what I'm doing, once they open that thing, I'm going to go ahead and update the thing, send it to them out of HomeBot. I don't do any evaluations anymore unless it's a HomeBot one. And when they turn around and finally respond to me, now I'll give them a better one. Because at that point, I also trying to get them, virtual meeting, this, that. I've had a guy walk me through the house last week with a, he was so thrilled to be the realtor, doing the Facebook, walked me through on the Facebook Messenger and looked at the house. And while I was talking to the guy and already had everything pulled up, before we got off the phone, I said, hey, do me a favor, when you get off the phone, I want you to go and check your email. I just sent you something. So I actually am going out to meet this guy today at 11 o'clock my time to do a walkthrough on his house to do evaluation. And the guy's moving, so I'm pretty sure I will be listing that place. But it's like we have enough stuff already in our system that we don't need to add an 8th or 9th or 10th system. What you can do is just kind of pull back a little bit. And I'm honestly going to say at this point, less is better. Let StreetText do its job. Then from that point, we always say follow up. If you're not following up, you're wasting money. So let StreetText do the job. Get the lead. I agree with what Wendy said. Get the BombBomb out to them one way or another. But what you have, the bottom line is, if it don't work, change up. If you're sending stuff at 10 in the morning, it ain't working, send it at 4 in the afternoon. But just back up and use what you have and be effective and be efficient. So I'm back to where I'm saying texting is a really big thing. BombBomb supports you in that. If you don't have BombBomb, you can still text. If you're in your phone and you go into StreetText every day, when you're in the dashboard, StreetText tells you where something was sent and who did something. Follow up with those. Text to them. Get them going. But when you do that, make sure you're sitting near a computer or something so that if you want to get something out to them, you can get it out right away, because now you have them. Don't send it out, I'll send it out in a couple hours, because at that point in a couple hours, they're gone. They got something else going on. People are sitting home now, but they're starting to get active and proactive. So if you have a lead in there, you need to be responding to them at the time, because you know the deal. If I'm on the internet cruising and I hit your site, I guarantee you hit 3 or 4 other realtors' site as well. So get them while you got them, and just go back to using what you have. Everything works fine. It's just a matter of balance. So change up, the verbiage, change up what you have. But I strongly recommend, whether you say Facebook for their home valuation or something, get a catch line or something that's going to catch them eyes and get them opening what you have.
Smart.
Now, has anybody changed their SMS component to, the first text message or the second text message or anything like that and seen better results?
I'm still locked out.
What's that? You're still locked out?
I'm still in Facebook hell. I sent him another one last night. Aiden and I was talking last week, so he said, Leon, hit him every day with a review thing. So I'm hitting them up every day to get these guys out. And I'm just at the point where by this weekend, if Facebook doesn't resolve my issue, I'm going to create a whole new freaking account, because I can't do nothing without it. So, and this is why I'm saying results-wise, I'm still following up on what I have in the StreetText system, and I'm still getting results without advertising for new leads. So I fully agree. Use what you got. But yeah, I'm kind of stuck in purgatory of Facebook right now.
Well, that kind of brings us back to the beginning subject of everybody's always looking for that next gem lead, and that next gem lead is good. There's a good likelihood it's already in your arsenal. You already have it. You've already paid for it, right? Like, think of how many you've already converted. Look back. Have you converted 1%, 3%, 6%, 10% of these leads? How many are there that you have yet to convert, right? And one thought that I had is starting to treat some of these sellers a little bit more like buyers. And what I mean by that is consider what actually sets a market value of a home. Let's say that, my home right now could be worth in around $800,000. Well, my neighbor who has a very, very similar home needs to sell. Marcus, you can, attest to this. My neighbor needs to sell and has a very similar home, and they, let it go for $725. What's going to happen to my market value? right? It's unfortunate, but it's likely to come down a slight bit. And if that keeps happening, so my idea is what sets market value is current inventory as well as recently solds, right? So if we can start to communicate to that, the people who, you want to know what your home's value is, here's HomeBot, here's all these things, you're not getting the responses we're thinking of. Why don't we think of setting them up on an automatic notification list, right? And we can identify that to people. One thing that will affect your home's value is when other homes similar to yours hit the market. If you'd like to receive instant notification when a home similar to yours is to hit the market, all I need is X, Y, Z. So even consider something like a mailer for an address only. That's one way. For people who aren't using HomeBot, consider something like that. Identify yourself as being able to provide this updated information. As soon as a home like yours hits the market, I'm going to send it to you now. In order for me to set you up on this list, I need your email address. If you can text it to me at the number below, anytime a home like yours hits the market, I'll make sure you're the first to know of it, right? Something in that area, I think that would be something unique, and not every seller is used to getting that kind of feedback, because and once again, a lot of sellers are looking to buy. So they already want that information. They want to know what's available, and they want to know who they're potentially competing against. So definitely something there.
Right on. I mean, you're right, Logan. The recent sale, and there was a home across the street, very similar setup. Not as much updates or renovations or sweat equity put in the house, cookie cutter compared to ours, but it sold for $520 because the couple was leaving to Australia. So they just wanted to get rid of it. They took the first lowball offer, didn't even counter it. And here I am putting my house up for closer to $6, and immediately that's comparable. And I'm having to fight against that with every realtor showing my house.
But if you have solid comps for other ones, that's like saying if it's a short sale in a neighborhood and somebody had a short sale, bankruptcy, or foreclosure, you can have that disallowed. As long as you can justify the fact that that was a different, unique situation versus a actual value, I would not dip down any further than I had to.
Still, though, if you ever represented buyers who are looking in an area and they're seeing that same comp list, it's pretty hard to convince them that that was just a one-off.
This conversation, this is really good, though. I think like what Leon just put there, that's where, like, you as a real estate agent, you can make this a case study. You can talk about this, be like, don't let this happen to you. If you see people doing short sales or something else happening in a neighborhood, here's how you can, preemptively get in front of it. You as a realtor now position yourself in a marketplace of a scenario that a lot of people wouldn't want to have happen. And so that is a really powerful, it's a real powerful opportunity as far as a conversation starter. I think
it could be a unique approach for FSBOs in an area too, right? Hey, I see that you're selling yourself. At the same time, there's been some short sales, there's been some activity around you that may affect your value. Are you familiar with the kind of conversation and dialogue you're expecting to have with other realtors? Because they're going to come after you with this and this and this, right? It could be a nice opportunity to speak to those individuals as well and try to get them to list.
If it's a low turnover area, I get it. But if you've got enough other comps to offset it, when they say all those numbers can't be wrong. So if I've got 3 or 4 other comps to justify my comp, Marcus, I'm not going to dip to the other guy because it's your money on the table. And like I said, even an appraiser going out, when he looks at that, an appraiser's job is to actually look at what's in there for comps and use it. And as long as the understanding is there that you can kind of update, let them know why that other one went like it did, you should still be able to go back and be in your market range. One thing I was going to also sit there, the thing for people, someone said I don't use HomeBot, this and that. That's fine. Use your MLS. One of the things I've also done, if I have people, whether they're active or not, what I do like about HomeBot though is I've got a daily activity. So I got one of my realtors, she goes in every day, everybody's active, she'll tune it, and then she's sending an email out a bomb box to check the actives and opens. But if you're not using HomeBot or something like that, staying within the system, if you want to go into StreetText, I do not sign people up for searches automatically unless they're doing something. I want them active. So if you have someone in there, rather than set them up for a search, because the minute they unsubscribe, it's hard to get back. So what I would suggest then for people for an alternative method, go into the MLS that you pay your dues for, like I do, and do a search for the area, go active, pending, sold, and just send it to an email, let them know what they're, say, hey, snapshot of your market or what your market activity is, send it to them. And this way, there's nothing for them to subscribe from because you're not running an automated thing where the MLS is dumping on them, but you're getting something out to them. So once again, we always say, provide something of value at no cost to the person. So when you send something or you're saying, hey, homes are still selling in your area, here's your snapshot, and they see this, this is another way that they're going to get that open, they're going to get that click. So if you're using BombBomb and send it through that, you can click the open through that. If you're just sending a straight email, you might not be able to track the open, but at least if they're getting something from you, it takes but a minute to pull up the house in the area and send something out. But the bottom line is you have to put yourself in front of them, and to do something is better than nothing. And it takes less time to send them something like that than to generate a whole CMA.
Yeah, that's a great point. You know, something else that has been on my mind I want to kind of talk about today is just the fundamentals of business, like really just the basics, the ABCs. We you know, there's a lot of systems, as Leon was talking about there's a lot of different things we can do, but ultimately business is a very fundamentally, it's about two things. It's about serving clients and it's about making a profit. If you're only focused on serving clients and you never make a profit, guess what happens? Those businesses get worn down over time. If you're only so focused on making a profit and not on serving clients, well, guess what happens? Those businesses might make money, but they're constantly burning those clients, and eventually they hit a point where they don't have any new clients coming, or they just left this like trail of kind of bad experiences behind them, and that's not really the brand or the kind of business that I think most people want to create. And so the other part about business is that you are there to serve your clients well, but in order to do that, in order to make money, you actually need to get more clients, which is, you know, this is very basic. This is, you know, ABCs. But what happens is that people forget that that all starts with leads. And in real estate, if your leads stop flowing, you may not notice that for a month or 2 months or even 3 months. But at some point, all of a sudden, you hit a point where the water dries up. And then everybody experiences that sort of like roller coaster where they're just like super busy. They're like, yeah, doing a deal. And then they hit the next day and there's nothing. It's just crickets. And you're looking around and you're thinking like, what am I going to do? And it's like, you have to restart this wheel of momentum again. And I can see even some of your expressions here, maybe you've experienced this in the past at some point. And it's a very painful experience. And so it's the ABCs of, and we're like, you know, our business is no different. Like this is like, I've learned how simple business is by doing it the hard way again and again and again. And now I just think about it in like the most basic, simple ways. I think, you know, how many leads is there? What's the conversion at? How many conversations? What's the conversion at? Like very basic. And I keep track on those numbers because they are my health meters of my business. I can see, okay, what are my leads costing me? How many are we getting? What are the conversation rate? How many are we getting? How many of those are turning appointments? How many are we getting? It's just A, B, C's. And then of course, how are we serving them? What's the like, are we doing everything that we can? Are we communicating that message? Like to what Leon just shared, that great example of like, are we telling people, are we having conversations around those things that you're doing? Because each and every one of you is a differentiator. You're serving your customers in a way that no one else is. And you need to talk about that. You need to have those conversations. And that's where marketing becomes really powerful. So I love this quote. It's like, if you're not generating leads and you're not following up with them, you're not reaching your potential. But the key there is you got to stay in touch. And I know we teach different techniques here, but one of the ones that's really important is that built into StreetText is a 9-month drip campaign. If you reach out to that person the first time and they come in, but you stop that drip campaign and they don't have some other system in place, well, guess what happens is that, you know, 4 months down the road, you want to message and communicate with them, but that drip campaign stops. So they've now forgotten who you are. So you're having to restart everything all over again. The most amount of energy that goes into something is when you're starting to get the ball moving. That takes the most work. And it's like starting an engine. Every time you start an engine, I remember taking shop class in school, and they were saying that every time you turn that key over, it's equal to about 100 miles on that engine, because it's basically you're starting it from cold, and then you're having to get it kick-started and do all that wear and tear that's on the moving parts. And it's no different in the business. It's like you got to get this the cycle of like stop, start, stop, start. But all that energy is going into just turning the key over and getting things going, and then get the marketing out there, getting the systems back in place and get the content going. So it's like you've already done all that hard work. Now's the time to keep the messages going. So how do you do that? You want to make sure that everybody that you generate and you're communicating with is going on some form of I want to say like minimum weekly messaging, because most of the, we know this, is most of the money's in the follow-up. And that's because most people that are coming through are going to be thinking about, you know, they're learning, they're trying to understand, and they're getting to know you. They're learning who you are. They're learning, why would I want to work with you? They're learning what's the market worth? You know, oh, guess what? The market's changed 2 months later. My timing is now really ready, but I'm still interested in my market report. Like, I didn't stop being interested in it 2 months later, 3 months later, 4 months later. I'm still interested because it's still an asset. It's still something that's important to me. It's still my investment, and I still want to know what it's worth. So those are like really powerful ways of doing that. And so I just want to, I drew out a really rudimentary, which I'm not, it's going to talk about it. So basically you've got, when you generate a lead, we get a lead, you want to get an inquiry. Obviously you want to get an inquiry, and then that inquiry takes a follow-up. And so at this point, you basically need to, on that follow-up, you're either going to have them into a position where you're now speaking with them and you're having that conversation. But if you're not speaking with that person, you got to move them into some sort of follow-up drip, some sort of way of staying in touch with them. And then this continues because, well, if you're speaking with someone, has that turned into an appointment? If that hasn't turned into an appointment, move them straight back to that follow-up trip, back to the staying in touch with them. Because again, you've got like the easiest and possible best way to keep in touch with people is staying top of mind. And when you're top of mind, you want to always end that with a way of having a conversation. Like, you always want to have an opportunity to have another conversation. And, you know, in real estate, it's a relationship business. And, you know, I know that everybody in this room has the ability to hold an incredible conversation. And I've spoken with many of you personally. It's like, you guys, you're very, very interesting. And so the more conversations you have, the better for your business. People speak with you, they learn from you, they understand from you, they want to do business with you. That's just how it works. And so you want to increase the number of conversations you're having. And so if you get that appointment, guess what? Either that appointment's going to turn into a client, or they're going to take a couple weeks, maybe longer, to sort of make their decision. So if they haven't moved like straight from being, okay, great, we had an appointment, signed contract, or had an appointment, and now they're working with you as a client, most people aren't going to continue shopping around at that point. If they're working with you, they're working with you, most people. If they're not working with you, that's now your responsibility to really stay in touch with them and treat them the same way you would if they were like that brand new lead, because you got to basically keep on top of them, because they're now in that period of time where they're thinking about things. Maybe they've interviewed with people. The person that stays in touch with them the longest or the most, that's the person who's going to get the business at the end of the day when they're going into that sort of deliberation phase. So I just wanted to talk about that too, because business is basic. It's really, really basic. But because of the fact that there's so many systems and so many things and so many distractions, and because of the fact that it's, you know, it's a people, right? People business. So there's like complications and there's emotions and sometimes you're doing a transaction and the transaction becomes really complex and you got all these different balls moving. It's really easy to get off track of the very basic elements of the business. And so just making sure that every day, every week, you can just, even if you can create some sort of dashboard for yourselves, where you can just track those numbers. What do my overall numbers of my business look like? Are they green? Are they healthy? And if they're green, awesome. You're like, everything's good. That means there's deals next month. That means there's deals the month after that. That means there's deals the month after that. If they're not green, if you do it's like a self audit and you look at those numbers and there's a red number, that's the most important thing you need to address. Because if you don't address that, guess what happens a week later, 2 weeks later, a month later, 3 months later, it starts to dry up. So I wanted to remind that as well in this mastermind, just how important it is, and sort of a simple way to follow up. And everything that, you know, Wendy and Leon and Jen they're talking about here, it you know, when you understand it in the concept of, or within context of how important the lead is, you realize that that stuff is really easy to do. It's really easy to do because it's so worth it to your future business. And then the way you create that relationship with now, guess what? That creates raving fans, because those person have such a great experience with you, and they're going to have a great experience when you're listing their home, and they're going to have a great experience when they're moving into a new one. And those raving fans then becoming great testimonials, referrals, repeat business, and more business down the pipeline.
John, that's excellent. And I think what the key is we're always trying to humanize the process, right? And part of why we use video is to humanize the process, but how do you humanize the process for them, for yourself? Part of what I always talk about searching for them on Facebook and profiling them is because you want to humanize it for yourself, or else you're not going to proactively go after that relationship. Because until you see that lead face to face, even if it's a picture, even if it's a little bit about them and their family and what they love and what they represent, that's what Facebook's for, right? It's Facebook. So essentially, you need to teach yourself to do the same. Because if you're humanizing the process and throwing video at them and doing a home bot report and video showing their home and so forth, you want to do the same for yourself, or else you'll never really look at that lead any differently. So I suggest, who's Darlene? I don't know, I think she might have left the room. She was a perfect example if she does come. Hey, Darlene, do you want to unmute yourself? We had a good conversation about this the other day about an address only. If you want to just tell people about it, how something as small as an address only essentially became a contact for you.
Yeah, I had an address only and it was a local, so I really wanted to contact him. So I looked him up on Realist Tax and I got his name. Then I matched his name to Facebook and saw that he was like this local surfer dude who I probably have mutual friends with, and sat on it for a few days because I felt like a stalker. I'm like, I got his name from Realist. He didn't leave his name. And now I'm going to friend him on Facebook and he's going to think I'm a creeper. But I did it. I waited a couple days and then I friended him. He, like, instantly, we're friends. And I have 2 of them that I actually did that with. So it's fun. I mean, we're friends and we have similar interests. It's fine. It seemed creepy, but he was fine with it.
Right. So what did you say did you actually have a message? Like,
no, we haven't had any conversation, just like each other's posts. You know, I'll let it ride for a little while. And then I have an assistant. So, and he's another surfer dude, same age group kind of thing. And I have him working the address only. So this actually goes in his bucket. So I'm going to, have him also friend him and then, or, just contact him. He's going to go drop a CMA on his doorstep. So they'll make that connection. My assistant, Jimmy, comes from, I don't know if any of you know who Cal Worthington is. Anybody remember Cal Worthington and his dog Spot? So Jimmy's 68 years old, grew up in the Cal Worthington family. So I've got me a salesman from the word go. So I'm sending him out to it.
Yeah, and the thing I think you always have to remember, like Darlene, something like that, everything that you do, you are mirroring and showing your clients how you're going to represent them. Right. Like you have to remember, especially the people that are very business minded and have a lot of assets, they're going to appreciate your ability to go after them. Like the people that have a lot of investments and, they've got there for a reason. They're business minded. They're entrepreneurial in nature. So they're going to be looking at you going, wow, this person's sharp. Like they figured out who I was. They followed up with me. They dropped this on my box. They've kept up with me. This is how they're going to represent me. Everything is a reflection of how, even the fact that you met them through an ad on Facebook, they're going to be like, they're up and suave with the real times. like they know how things are working nowadays. So every time you go to do something, know that the people that have the biggest assets to sell got them because they're very smart when it comes to business. And they're going to appreciate your ability to follow up with them in a way that somebody else wouldn't. So being shy about, making that next step, no, people like that are going to recognize how much of a go-getter you were. And they're going to look to you when it's time to make that transaction.
I want to speak to that too, what Darlene said. And for those of you who've been here a long time, like Leon and Wendy, you hear me all the time. Like I always say, I sound like an infomercial, But what's so amazing, like people will compare and say, oh, well, I have this option. I can lead generate. I could go buy this and this. I won't even name them because it doesn't matter. But like the point is, the thing about StreetText is just more than the platform. It's the fact that like we sit here and we're sharing the videos and the scripts, and it's so powerful because yeah, I felt like a stalker a few times, but I gotta be honest, one of those stalkerific moments led me to a listing appointment. We became fast friends. She couldn't sell at the moment, but you know what? She has referred me to 3 other people looking to sell because I'm a human to her, because she saw me on the videos at the beginning. She connected with me on Facebook. She can get to me by text. So that's the power of StreetText beyond just the awesome platform, exactly what you're talking about. And people really do appreciate that approach. And they like being able to kind of stalk you too and see if you're normal and see that sometimes your hair is a little frizzy. Nobody like wants to like talk to a robot. And sometimes, realtors can come off really stiff in those advertisements, or if they see you on like those websites I'm not mentioning, they see a picture, it means nothing to them. They care nothing about you. But when they see your babies or your wife or your husband or your cousin's brother or the fact that you were sick, all of a sudden you're a person and you're going to care about them because you seem like you're a person too. So anyway, that's my little spiel.
I have a spiel for Darlene. You'll feel less like a stalker if you say you're going to friend request them in your first video. If you have that in your intro, they're already expecting you to friend request them. So just do it.
And always leave it as a call to action, right?
He was an address only. So
that's right.
It was a true stalk.
Hey, Darlene, I'm going to use you for everybody as an example right now because we're not friends yet. Okay?
Oh.
So this is a perfect example. Let's pretend Darlene is an address only. We're just a lead that we are looking up on Facebook. For all of us here, how do you do this? What do you say? Why should you do this? Here's a quick tutorial on this process. So here's Darlene. Okay, and now most of you shouldn't just go type in their name. What you want to know about the Facebook search is when you type in their name, you want to go to these filter results. And then you actually want to go down to location and choose location from where that address came from. Right? Everybody get that part so far? And then obviously we've got mutual friends because Ira's our coach. So that's easy, puts her on the top. And anybody who has mutual friends, you'll put to the top. So that's your advantage. You never know if you have mutual friends, especially if you're farming in that community. Yeah, I don't know if that's going on right there.
That next Darlene is not.
That's not that Darlene. Okay, now here's where it gets fun because obviously I would profile this person. I mean, I'm so about grass-fed meat. Like we'd be talking about this right away. Yeah, this is a cool subject and so forth. I'd be probably doing my research on that lead a little bit, just kind of seeing where I could build some rapport, what we have in common, et cetera, right? You want to go and look to that person a little bit. Then when you do send them the friend request, right at that moment on time, you should be doing this from your desktop, you get a drop-down menu. Okay, this is where it gets really fun because most people don't do this part. You add them into a list. Now, I've created my Facebook as a CRM. So I have people that are in the 3-ed split test, attended demo, awesome trial results, club wealth coaches, et cetera, faith, you name it. What you're going to start doing is something quite simple. StreetText seller lead, address only, send home bot report to you. Because what you're going to start realizing is that you're not going to just put them into one list. You're going to put them into multiple lists. And that's the key. Like I can put you in multiple lists and it's for my own reference. Now, when I do that, I also want to follow up with a Facebook message because we're not connected yet. We're not friends yet. It's going to land in a folder that's here called message requests. Okay. Most people aren't aware of that. So if you start thinking creatively right now, this is why when Wendy said you set the tone and the expectation when you first send out the auto email that you're going to be sending a friend request, like Marley did in that course, I make sure everybody gets a chance to meet me. Well, that makes it a lot easier when you go do your follow-up because if you use the screen recording of some sort, you can actually show them where that message is sitting, right? And that's become very powerful. Now, it's not even so much for them as much as it is for you, right? Because you're humanizing the process for yourself. And when you actually go to your friends list and you create these friends lists, and because you've been so intentional about doing that with every single lead that's come in, now they're sitting in a list of which you are building. And you will see anybody that accepts your friend request, they will show up in your feed, in this specific list feed. So you could create content specifically to these people that become your home seller list or whatever. You're gonna have multiple lists. And the best part about it is when you go to see all, you're gonna be reminded of the people that you haven't connected with. Just because you can see the face, you're like, oh, I haven't had a connection with this person yet. I need to go see what's going on. And I'll do this from time to time because I know a lot of these people that I've tried to get in connection with, it's still sitting as pending request right here. And what I'll do is I'll cancel that request and resend it because that's a new notification. And I'll follow up with another message. So that's the idea of humanizing the process for yourself. As soon as you get a lead come in, you're intentional about profiling them because it immediately makes you feel like this is somebody I need to get this to, that I need to connect with, that I need to create a relationship with. And once they follow you on Facebook or they do see who you are and your family and what you represent, and people are going to end up, it's that know, like, trust model. If they're not liking what you put out there, then they're probably not going to be your clients anyways. So you need to be relatable, you need to be real, and the key is let them see that part of your life, because essentially anybody who does end up listing with you or buying with you, they love it anyways. They become your friends most of the time. So this is just a key step that I think that if you take initiative on from the very get-go, even if it's something as small as your address only, put them in that list, I think you'll see some big fruit come out of it later on. And that goes with all of your leads. So, if you're feeling overwhelmed, then maybe you spend less on Facebook right now on advertising and you focus more on quality with every single relationship. Spend more time on every one of those leads and less time trying to worry about how many leads you can generate and split testing and how low I can get my cost per lead, because that doesn't matter. The key is how do you create connection, how do you create a relationship. And so I love this thought and idea here because you'll more likely pursue that relationship if you start with this step as soon as that lead comes in. And then you'll have these lists to refer back to, and these lists will grow and you'll think creatively, okay, because they're your buckets, they're your pipelines, just like your CRM. These are just the best way to do it. And you'll move them from list to list based on that relationship, based on what you send, based on the dialogue you've had. You'll start creating new lists, they'll cross over, and now you'll know which ones are actually ready to sell. And then it'll be so fun when you move them into the list of, that listing closed. And you can see direct fruit come out of it, but it'll always be humanized for you.
Yeah, I think the way you shared that was really simple, Marcus. And feel free to do it, whether you're doing it through Follow-Up Boss, you can do it through StreetText, you can do the tags in StreetText too, that will work as well. You can even do it, I've seen people do it through Google Spreadsheets. They'll just create some sort of Zap automation from StreetText to Google Spreadsheets. You can do it in Line Desk, you can do it. The key there is you just want to create a bucket. And you want to be able to just, when you're talking to somebody, just real quickly go, okay, that's where they were the last time. I have a note as well, maybe include notes. One of the things we noticed so we did a bunch of analytics queries on our accounts just to see sort of what's any indicators of success. And one of the things we saw was that people had higher indicators of success if they were taking notes. But it makes total sense when you think about it. Because notes is obviously you had a conversation or you did some investigative work, but then later, 2 months later, 3 months later, when that person inquires, you can pick up the conversation right where you left it off. But, trying to remember, 100 different people, different situations without taking notes is really hard. In the moment, it's really easy. So, one by one, we can all, this is how do you eat an elephant, right? Bite by bite. So doing notes is another really, really simple way and a really effective thing to do. And it's a good habit. So however you're creating lists, however you're segmenting, and the beauty of doing it the way Facebook is on Facebook, the way Marcus was describing, is that you do see their face. And that way you kind of are remembering, yeah, this is a real person too, because a lot of times with online lead generation, this is part of our mission, is we want to try to humanize this. We want to try to make it as real as possible, because every single person that's coming through is a real person. They're in that moment. If you could see them, And, you'd be like, wow, that's that's who that person is. That's, that's Dave. That's Tom. That's Susie. That's, you know what I mean? There they are. They're putting in their request. They really want to know in that moment. It's a real person. And what Facebook does is it helps you get to see who they are. And it reminds us, and sometimes it's easier. It's like, it's hard to serve something if we think it's just, it's just nondescript. It's just a number. It's just a name. But as soon as it's a real person, you're like, okay, I'm serving them. They've got family, they got kids, maybe they've got, maybe they're just moving, maybe they're relocating, but they have needs, they're a real person. So it's the more you can humanize it for yourself, the easier it is to find you'll sustain that motivation and the intentionality behind it. And even just to cater your messaging, it'll be very subtle, but it'll be there, and that will create more of the outcome that you're looking for. So it's really powerful. And Ira talks about this in our office all the time, which is good.
No, it's no different when a trial sets up with us. Our ability to connect with them immediately sets the tone for if that trial is going to, you guys all remember when you're with your coaches, the moment you connect on Facebook, it immediately lets our guard down. And we look at like each other in a different light, especially when we get the chance to meet on Zoom and get face to face. So you got to assume that before you have that opportunity, there is really no way for them to know or like you, or let alone trust you. There is no rapport that's been built. There's nothing in common. You are just a name who's trying to get their business in many people's mind. So the only way to do this is to be proactively looking for a way to connect. And there's no better way to do it than where they actually found you on their personal Facebook newsfeed. So that's why you look at the business side of Facebook as your pay to play. You're paying Facebook to meet people you've never met before, but you got to bring them back into that personal environment, because that's where you're going to be top of mind every single day in their newsfeed. For people that are spending hours maybe or more during this time, especially on social media, you got to remember your inbox is great. Like your CRM's good, whatever, they're doing their thing. But at the end of the day, they're not sitting in their inbox. They go check their inbox from time to time. They're sitting in their newsfeed. And so once you get that connection, now you get Messenger. And Messenger is the best thing you could possibly have, because you can track all your conversation. You can see what's been read, right? You can put videos there. You can put PDFs there. You can do voicemails. It's phenomenal. You know when they're home. It's like, it's a live notification in green showing you this person is on their computer and on their phone. You can message them right now and have a conversation. But you need to be intentional about creating that relationship first and foremost. And so if you're doing it right, your automations are reflecting that. You have a call to action that points back to your personal Facebook, and you continue to have that call to action in your drips. That is the way to do it. And then be proactive with pursuing them through Facebook, and don't stop just because they haven't accepted yet. That's why you're building this list, because from time to time when you have some free time, you're like, pending request, cancel, resend, another message. Hey, did you receive the home value? And that's the key. And then if your personal emails reflect that too, hey, just want to let you know, I've been trying to send you some messages on Facebook. I wanted to get you over there because that's where you can make this up. We'll talk about this in the conversion class. But there's some easy, authentic, genuine ways to connect with them. And I think if you focus there, you're going to see some really good fruit.
And I think it's massively important, like that you remember people are really good consumers. They might not ever like anything you say. They may never comment, but they're watching. And I mean, I used to do a lot of like international training and fitness, and I would go to conferences all the time, and I would present sessions, and people would say to me, oh, Ira, like, I'm always following you. I love all your stuff. Like, I love this, I love that. And I'd be like, I had no clue that they actually even were friends with me on Facebook, let alone followed content. I had someone reach out to me from 3 years ago that said they did a program that I offered as a free opt-in online, and that it changed their life, and they're still using it to this day. And I was like, I had no clue that person was using it. So I think you have to remember that sometimes we are so looking for the response to continue the activity. And what you need to do is you need to know that the activity will elicit the response over time when you're patient and you're persistent and you make it about people. Because when you make it about people and you're always on there, people are getting to know you, and they're slowly beginning to either like or dislike you. That's the other part of it. You have to be okay with someone saying, yeah, you are a creepy stalker and I don't like you and I don't agree with you and I'm going to unfriend you. Because when you try to go through life trying to make everyone like you, it's really going to suck. And it's going to make you not do the activities required to excel. So just know that you're going to friend some people and you're going to dislike them as much as they dislike you. They're not your ideal customer. Just be consistent with the activities and know you're going to get connected with like-minded human beings over time. And don't let the responses dictate your activity. Daily activity trumps everything. So just be daily active on socials and get them connected and refriend them, because the more you do that, the more they're getting to, acclimatize themselves to you and start to get to know you. Like I've gotten to know some amazing people online that I've never met in person, but I really just like them because we think a lot alike, and it's all through Facebook. I've never actually met them in person. So that's the key: activity.
That's good.
Can I remind, before we get off one of you guys, because this will be probably Logan. He brought it up. It's his fault. He'll do it. Someone asked the question, and we'd said this before. Is it possible to show how you can turn around at the end of a campaign in StreetText, move them into another one for it to be started? Because like I said, when I first started, I looked at that 3 months and I'm going, oh, I'll be at this forever. And I moved mine over to where I started doing a 9-month automatically. But there's a lot of people that have no campaigns actively running, and that's why they're getting crickets. And a lot of people aren't sure how to start a new campaign with clients they already have in the system. And that was asked earlier in this, so I wanted to bring it up because someone asked that in the chat. So I really feel that when Logan said we're going old school, that we really need to kind of show that.
Yes, I agree. So so that's something that the easiest way right now would be to create a drip campaign that you can then, based on the fact that you're trying to make it as general as possible. So it's basically something that people can subscribe to, and then you can build it up over time. So you can actually add emails to it, but then kind of funnel everybody you want to it. Doesn't matter if they're seller or buyer or anybody. So you can build it into your initial automation. There's no way right now to take a contact and move them into a drip at a later fact. But that's something that we want to do and prioritize right away. So I think we should make a big campaign and push this forward ASAP because it's really important. It's critical. I can see a lot of heads nodding too. So yeah, it's really critical. So it's I think it's a big piece that we need in there. The easiest way to do it for now is actually just to build, like I said, a drip that you can then actually add emails to week after week after week. And then everybody that's joining that drip is going to slowly go through that campaign sequence. That's the easiest way for now. But moving forward, the other thing I just want to add real quick to Ira's last thing is just the beauty of a no. I love that. Like who's here taking the time, or you probably thought about it, who your ideal client is, to define who your ideal client is. So yeah, yeah, totally. It's so worth it for 2 reasons. Number one, when you're messaging and you're writing content and you're putting posts out there, you're going to resonate with your ideal client, especially if you've taken the time to define who they are. And that resonation is going to attract more of them to you. And that's what you want. You want to build a business around with more, like a greater percentage of your clients being your ideal client. The second thing is every time you hear a no means you're that much closer to your next yes. So I know somebody who counted how many no's it took. And so they, on average, it was like 9 no's to 1 yes. And they were just like high on the activity side. So every time they got a no, they were like, yes, I'm like, now I'm only 7 no's away. Now I'm only 5 no's away. Now I'm only 2 no's away. Now I'm only 1 no. Oh, I got my yes. And so they kept like, for them, it was like that became their fuel for their next yes. So, and that's a good way to kind of frame the mind around that. But I think what Ira said there was so much gold in that statement. And it's so true, because your ideal business is around that corner of knowing who it is that you want to do business with and being totally comfortable with that. And then creating your messaging and everything else around that, and being fine with the fact that there are people out there who, you know what, it's actually better to find out early on the beginning, the front line, that you don't necessarily even want to do business with them. So I think that's a really good point that you made there. Yeah. But with that said, any other, we're at the hour. So any other thoughts?
I have a question. Is there any way to make the auto text messages not go out at like 5:36 in the morning? Like put a time limit on it, because I kind of pissed off a couple people because my automated text went out, because I think it just goes, you know, from when they came in to 24 hours later, and it doesn't really, you know, adjust.
Look in the automation section. There may be a time zone issue. I've seen that in a few accounts, but that's something we added, I want to say, over a year ago now. So if you go to the funnel that it is created under, right, and go to the My Funnels, automations, and figure out that the automation stream associated with that particular ad, it'll have a timeline at the top. It's usually 8 to 8. It's on the 24-hour clock. But you can adjust that to make sure that emails will still fire at any time of the night, because
right, that's fine.
Right?
Yeah,
Text messages, absolutely. They
got it. I got it. Dang, it's so early. Stop.
And I would encourage you guys all to consider changing your AI a little bit, especially during these times, and also reflecting what you know is already been sent in your email. So Julie's there to reinforce what you want them to see, right? Julie's there for you to, except for Julie Barlow, we know we changed that, or anybody named Julie. But Julie is there for you to customize and change. And you know some of the times they don't get that first text message. So the second text message would be a perfect opportunity to go and edit and change what you want them to go to in their inbox. Hey, did you receive the email we sent regarding your home value? You know, Jennifer wanted to make sure you got a chance to meet her, right? That type of thing. Or if you're trying to do something like friend requesting or Facebook, Julie's the best person to reinforce that. So think outside the box. This isn't yours. This is your ability to customize and change everything and anything. Even the time frame these emails are being sent on. We didn't say you had to keep that day 3 as day 3. You could up it to day 2 or go back to day 7. It doesn't matter. You can change everything. Everything is customizable. Everything's editable. So if you want to discuss that, we can, you know, tomorrow at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 2 p.m. Eastern, perfect time to work specifically on the conversion side of this, outside of this mastermind. Just a thought.
And I got one last one for you. I'm laughing. I'm going to put this on Lori Nader because she thought she had me yesterday. I got her. I got a link I just posted in the chat. I'm going to put it in the StreetText Insider. Back to the king of free 99. If you haven't done Linktree, you need to download it and set it up. It's free 99, or I wouldn't say that. But, you know, we're doing more from home. It's a digital business card. I put my link in there because you can go look at it. I believe in keep it simple. So when you're talking to a person, you say, hey, I got something for you. And you want to send it to them, text it to them, whatever. It drives them into your site, and you're able to put all your important places you want them to be. So I've got like my website for search. I've got the valuation part of it. I've got my YouTube channel, something like that. But it's a really cool tool because, once again, it's one more point of contact or one more touch point on somebody to get them over, and just make sure you put something useful in it. It's a digital business card. So I was taking before, I just have a picture of my business card in my phone, I text it over. Now I just text them the Linktree link, and it has more information for them, and it's just a great thing to try. So y'all should give it a shot and see what you think. And
Leon, I think you should put your personal Facebook in there, brother. Just saying.
I might be building a whole new Facebook this weekend, so.
There you go. Good starting point. Awesome. All right, guys. We'll wrap it up. That was an awesome mastermind, as always. So feel free to take away anything you learned or have questions about. Throw it in the discussion feature of the Insider Group right now. And wish you guys all a great week. Just so you know, we have a new Zapier and integrations class. I think that's on Friday. Is that right, John? With Steve? And,
yes. Yeah.
And Jeff, who is like huge on Zapier integrations. So anybody who's wanting to see what Steve Apostle with Zapier or any sort of integration, great class. Logan is always hosting his custom ads class, which he didn't tell anybody about, which is why he only had one person. So make sure you
See, I'm not the promoter. That's your style. I run the classes just fine, but I'm not the promoter. For anybody who wants to know, you know, if they haven't already seen it, I'm sure it's in our insider group, but I just put a Calendly link in there. That's to all of the StreetText classes. That's the new integrations class. That's my ad tweaks class, or the custom ad class, Steve's ad tweaks class, Marcus's conversion class, the mastermind, everything. We have links to every one of our classes in that that Calendly page. So if you see that there, it's calendly.com/StreetText. Bookmark that and you'll have access to every single class that we run.
Yeah, and we're always wanting your feedback. So at the end of the day too, if you're going through the StreetText Academy and you're like, what am I looking at? Or questions about it, please let us know. Or, hey, would you build another section that's specifically more on this? Because we want to streamline this. We want you to work smarter, not harder. Like, we don't want you to spend and waste a bunch of time trying to figure out things.
I think that was a funny one this week because there were so many people in the comments too of the insider group that were like, hey, where's that class? Where's that class? Where's that class? I couldn't find the link. That's funny.
Learning lesson.
I have a marketing class for Logan.
Right?
But hey, anyway, I gotta run here, but see you guys, and then Chad will be connecting in a bit here.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah,
Yeah.